I'm Mike Peterson, and welcome to my podcast. What's up, team? I'm Mike Peterson, and welcome to the podcast. What kind of leader would you want to be known as? I recently received a message from a friend, and it was a text that he received from a former employee. And the employee who was going on to do some great things just felt the need to send this friend a text and just to tell him thank you about his leadership and how he impacted his life. And he went into talking about the direct impact it had on him as a person. And I want to share it with you, and I'm going to read it. And it starts with saying, thank you for everything you've done. And he said, what motivated me about your leadership? It's simple. I respected you immensely, and I never wanted to disappoint you. Yes, I am a self-starter by nature, but you had this innate ability to rally the troops. I remember walking out of your team meetings and feeling so energized and engaged and motivated to be better, to do better. To me, you were so much more than a boss. You were a mentor, a coach, and a role model. And I was incredibly proud to work for you. I saw how much time and effort you put in. I saw how much you genuinely cared about your team. If something wasn't right, you immediately corrected it. When you saw that we weren't doing what was needed to be done, you called it out and challenged us to do better. I saw the relationships you built with people all over the world. I saw how you demanded respect when you walked into a room just by your presence. I saw you never take credit for our successes, but you took responsibility for our failures. I saw you willing to do the same work you asked of those who worked for you. All of this made me respect you as a leader I wanted to one day be. I learned through observing you. I always paid close attention to how you presented yourself, how you spoke to people, what you prioritized, and how you reacted in different scenarios. It sounds counterintuitive, but you actually taught me more when you weren't teaching me. Now, that's an awesome letter, but as nice as it was extremely educational. See, when I listen to that message, I start to think that this is an athlete talking to a coach, because that's what it sounds like. When he says, I didn't want to disappoint you. For those of you that have played sports and you had that transformative coach, you know what that statement means. You know exactly what they're saying. It wasn't about fear, being afraid to make mistakes. It's just you respect that coach or those coaches so much that you don't want to let them down. But here's the thing, that comes from the coach, from the leader. It's not something you can really demand of your players or your team. It just tells you what kind of leader they are. And this person goes on to talk about how they would watch this leader in action. And it sounds like they watched every move he made, what he said it, how he carried himself. I mean, that is, if I can get you to follow me, if I can get you to strive for excellence, to fight through adversity, because you see me doing it, and you know if that's the standard, you now know what you have to do to be at that same level, that's leadership. Leadership without words. And he goes on to talk about how this leader never took credit for anything they did. Well, see, that goes back again in the sports world to a we, not me mentality. That's that leader saying, I didn't do anything. We did it. And everyone had a role in that success. But that leader went out of his way to make sure that the team understood that it was just that, a team. That any successes they were going to have because it started from employee 1 to employee 12, or employee 1 to employee 200, whatever your number is, that each person had value. And that leader, it, he must have really believed it. You know, there are some things that we just say because it sounds good, and we've heard it at a seminar or at a speech. Everyone matters. Sounds good. But in reality, we don't play it out that way. If there's someone who is not in sales, do we treat them any different? In operations, the person that manufactures the widget that the salesperson goes out and sells, do we let them know that their value is equal because the person making the sale couldn't make it if the widget wasn't made properly? See, when you do that, again, there's a level of pride and ownership, and you don't want to let your team down. In sports, whether it's high school, college, or professional, does everyone matter? I remember a long time ago speaking to the Ohio State football team. And this is after they won the national championship under Coach Truss. And one of the things that, in talking to the players, they said, what really helped them reach the level of being national champions was their scout team. The amount of effort and time that their scout team players put into preparing them was invaluable. Think about that. These are people that will never see the field. None of you know their names. They're never on TV unless they're scanning through the sidelines. They're never in the paper. No one talks about them. And in today's world, they're not getting NIL money. And yet, they are crucial to your success. You see, when you really believe that as a leader, and that's the environment you foster, that's the culture that you create, that means the bottom is up here instead of here. And that just makes you a stronger team, makes you a stronger company. Now, I want you to understand, the person that wrote this has gone on to do some great things. But in his thank you letter, and by the way, notice he thanked his former leader. Notice he said, hey, I have done some amazing things in my career, and I just need to say thank you. That's humble. That's humility. That's graciousness. All those things matter. They matter in the sports arena, they matter in the locker room, and they matter in the boardroom. And as we, as companies, strive to drive this team mindset, this meritocracy, this attitude of winning, you need to really understand the dynamics that go into a sporting team when you try to emulate them. Because yes, words like love are used. Caring, humility, those are demanded on the field. It's a requirement. Caring about your fellow brothers or sisters on the field is a necessity. And you don't have to be friends off the field. But on the field, it matters. You know, when I was a police officer, a buddy of mine who later went on to be chief of police, he came up to me after roll call and he told me, he said, hey, Mike, you need to stay in your zone, you and your partner. And it caught me off guard, frankly. But here this man is telling me what to do. I did not respond to it appropriately. And let's just say we got into an argument and it was loud. And I'm not proud to say this, let's just say they had to keep us apart. Well, I was mad, I was hot, I was angry, and so was he. Later that evening, we were out on patrol, and all of a sudden, this officer that I just got into this row with calls out, officer needs assistance. Now, if you knew this officer, he is not one of those people to call out unless it's seriously a problem. And then he hits his emergency button, which is a police officer's 911. And when I heard it was him, and I knew that this was not a guy that would not just call for help for no reason. I was on the other side of town, and I responded to our radio, and I said, 279, I'm en route. And I said, can you reach him on the radio? And he was not responding. Now, folks, let me just tell you, I was in tears as I'm driving because I knew he was in trouble, and I had to get there. I had to get there to help him. And so we arrive, we get there, and he's in a fight with several individuals. And we handle the fight, we get everyone arrested, and after it's all said and done, he came up to me and he said, Mike, he said, man, when I heard you were coming, I knew we were going to be okay. And I said, dude, when I knew you were in trouble, I had to get here. You see, you and I can argue all the time. but no one else puts their hands on you. That's that kind of love that is hard to explain to people. But when you experience it, it's unlike anything you've ever felt. And we'll talk about that in a later episode. This thing about love and how it applies to both just the corporate side as well as the sports side. Now, HR, don't panic. It won't be that kind of conversation, all right? So, but it's important. So in his statement, he finished it by saying, I learned more from you than when you weren't teaching me, when I just got to watch you in action. Leaders lead. They don't pull. They don't push. They lead. Lead by your actions. Lead by your words. Inspire, motivate, encourage, correct, discipline, counsel, but in everything you do, make sure it's to better the individual. One of the things that he said is, I'm a self-starter. I'm motivated by nature. Yes, guys, we want motivated people on our team, but motivated people still need to be inspired, still need direction. We're all human. So find a way to stay strong, to be a leader that is constantly giving to your team. You develop the individual, I promise you, winning will be a byproduct of that. I've seen it firsthand. Keep swinging and keep knocking down giants. We'll see you next time.